Question number 9 is written as a trial balance does not balance and a suspense account is open. This is indeed correct because when the debit and credit totals of the trial balance are not equal to each other, then the suspense account is opened. Then it is written later the following errors are found and the suspense account is cleared. Suspense account is cleared means that the suspense account has been removed. Let's create a T account of suspense account so that it is a bit easier to understand and explain. Error number 1 is written a sales invoice for 1240 had been completely omitted from the books. Since it was not recorded at all, this means that on the debit side of the trial balance, 1240 was recorded less. And on the credit side also, 1240 was recorded less. Meaning, due to this error, the trial balance is still balanced. No side is smaller or bigger. Meaning, this error has no effect on the suspense account. So we will ignore it. Okay. Then error number 2 is written, the figure for total purchases had been entered as 85,600. The correct amount should have been 87,580. The result of this error is that instead of 87,580, purchases of 85,600 were recorded, meaning purchases were understated by 1980. Since the purchases account is a debit account, this means that the debit side of the trial balance is less by an amount of 1980. In other words, the credit side of the trial balance increased by an amount of 1980. So to make the debit side of the trial balance equal to the credit side of the trial balance, we will debit the purchases account with 1980, and since there is no other account is affected, so we'll credit the suspense account with 1980. Now, since we have credited the suspense account, then we will go to the suspense account, and in the credit side of this suspense account's T account, we will write the opposite account of this journal entry, that is purchases account, with the amount of 1980. Error number 3 is written rent paid of 2600 had been entered correctly in the cash book but entered as 6200 in the rent account. What should have happened is that the rent account should have been debited with 2600 and the cash account should have been credited with 2600. But what happened was something like this. The cash account was correctly credited with 2600, but the rent account was debited with 6200 instead of 2600, and an error occurred. So the rent account was overstated by 3600, resulting in the debit side of the trial balance increasing by an amount of 3600. So to make the debit side of the trial balance equal to the credit side, we will credit the rent account with 3600. And since the cash account is already correctly credited, we will use the other account, I mean the suspense account, and debit it with 3600. Now, since we have debited the suspense account, then we will go to the debit side of the suspense account and we will write the opposite account of this journal entry, I mean the rent account, with the amount of 3600. Got it? Now, let's balance the suspense account. On its credit side, the balance CD becomes 1620. Okay. Now, since the debit side of the suspense account is larger, this means that due to the errors, the debit side of the trial balance was larger. So, to make both sides of the trial balance equal, 1620 would have been written on the credit side of the trial balance. So this is how the suspense account was originally opened with the amount on the credit side. That is why option A is the correct option. I just hope you understand.